Thank you, Mr. Shikatano. It's commonplace in Cuban families to hear that phrase ring out, usually in an annoyed, angry, almost threatening tone. Es lo que hay. It is what it is. Stop complaining. I'm sure we can relate. We work, we toil at school or at our jobs. We do our chores at home. We study for math, only for the hagglers, the critics, and antagonists to demand more. Es lo que hay. It is what it is. It's through my parents that this phrase has become a part of my life. Perhaps my parents have a sort of ancestral muscle memory. Perhaps they say it without thinking. Their story, which is also my story, ironically has been about anything other than es lo que hay. It is what it is. When my father was around my age, he lived in Cuba, and he was probably going to be drafted by Castro's communist military to fight in Angola. The government expected him to go along with it. Es lo que hay, I suppose they would have said. My father mustered up the courage from within himself to say no. My father would not fight a war in Angola to spread communism. Fortunately and almost miraculously, due to his academic potential, my father was selected among the top 80 students in his province, and he was given the chance to go to medical school. It was either that or prison. He chose medical school. Before he finished the medical school, my dad escaped Cuba. He finished medical school in Costa Rica. 10 years later, after marrying my mother, my family was finally able to legally emigrate to the United States, and I was born in Miami, and so here I am today. From kindergarten through 8th grade, I attended public schools. I enjoyed this environment, and I flourished in it. Es lo que hay. As my family began searching for a high school for me, Jesuit emerged as an intriguing possibility. The strong academic tradition and the renowned sports programs helped me decide that I wanted a Jesuit education. To say the least, it's been a ride. I can vividly remember my first day as a student at Jesuit. What kind of school has a chapel the size of a basilica on campus? Right in the middle of the property. The idea was foreign to me, and weird. I remember my first classes, the crucifixes on the classroom walls, prayer to start every class. In many ways, Jesuit felt like a foreign country, as if I was an exchange student. I was looking around, searching for other students who were also weirded out, so that we could grin at each other behind the teachers' backs. But everyone thought it was normal. What had I gotten myself into? I can only rejoice that this new community, this alien culture, accepted me with open arms. The prayers weren't familiar, but my teachers and classmates taught me how to say them. The traditions made little sense, but they were explained to me with sound logic and reason. Intellectually, in my time at Jesuit, I've explored my interests and have grown in my education. I've always had a love-hate relationship with the school part of school, the homework that feels like busy work. However, I've always had a deep love for learning. I love the thrill of pursuing excellence and striving to achieve. The intensity and high standards of academic life are difficult at Jesuit. Jesuit has taught me, I have come to understand, that in order to pursue knowledge and the promise it holds for a better future, I must also embrace the rigors and the long hours of work, the next looming high-stakes essay or test, and the adrenaline of submitting a paper to Mr. Freeman 2 minutes before it's due. Now it seems almost as if I look forward to it. The struggle is beautiful, and I found value in the victories. At Jesuit, that little voice in my head has begun speaking to me, telling me that, for some reason, I still have to learn about Jose Marti and Ruben Dario, but not because Profe Hernandez is threatening me, but because it's good for me, and I actually like it. Knowledge is good, and I love it. I don't feel like I'm held at gunpoint to make grades in my classes. My teachers at Jesuit have pushed me beyond what I thought possible when I was in 8th grade. I formed strong relationships with many of them, oftentimes those who have pushed me the hardest. At Jesuit, my teachers have invested in me, they've cared for me as a person. For example, just this year alone, my AP research teacher, Mr. Freeman, he's been fighting cancer all year, and he's still come to school despite his treatments because he loves Jesuit, and he cares for me and my classmates. It's just one example of how Jesuit teachers go above and beyond for the sake of their students. I would say, however, that the most important lesson I've taken from Jesuit is one that, admittedly, I probably should have known earlier. Scripture tells us to love God and love thy neighbor. Jesuit didn't teach me this, it showed me this. It's quite special that the very nature of our school, since its inception, has fundamentally involved charity and service. The past 2 summers, I've traveled to an orphanage in Guatemala on a Jesuit mission trip. Those weeks serving impoverished orphans in Guatemala taught me so much. A simple interaction, such as one time I picked up a broom to help a young girl who had been sweeping like clockwork since 4 in the morning. I was a foreigner, a stranger wearing a blue shirt. This simple interaction, and many others like it, made tremendous impact on me. I got to help a young boy named David with his schoolwork. His mother was a victim of rape, and she was schizophrenic. Again, this human interaction taught me so much, if not more, than any academic curriculum could have. It's precisely for this that I thank Jesuit, for teaching me that there's no greater good than to help others. I can sit here and talk about my own personal development, but it's ultimately this position I've acquired through service with Agnes Christi, mission trips, and the broader formation, which are only available at Jesuit, that have taught me to go out and set the world on fire for the greater glory of God. As I consider my life after graduation, this paradigm of service is how I will view my life. As most people my age, I can't say with certainty where I'll end up. I have a knack for history, government, and language. Perhaps as a lawyer, I'll help protect the rights of my fellow citizens, preserve the rule of law in our country, or maybe I'll end up serving our country as a diplomat, providing peace and understanding on the global stage. I don't know what the future holds for me. What I do know, however, is that the intellectual, the moral, and the spiritual foundation that Jesuit has laid for me cannot be acquired at any other school. It will be my guide for the rest of my life. I profoundly thank Jesuit as an institution, as well as each and every member of the faculty and staff for this. And so to come full circle, I would like to propose that we should not exclaim, "Es lo que hay." Today we all have a chance to say, not "it is what it is," but instead, "what can it be?" Jesuit is looking towards the future, head on with resolution to persevere in realization of its mission, to make good men, to teach, to serve, and yes, even to extend a helping hand to a Guatemalan girl, sweeping the floor at the crack of dawn. Today, let us not ask what Jesuit can do for us, but what we can do for Jesuit. Thank you.